Vanguard, JP Morgan, UBS, they're all buying more AMD stock. What I'll do in this video is I'll go over some of the Wall Street analyst ratings as well. We just saw a big upgrade of $188 price target for this stock. There's 21 bullish companies. Actually, excuse me, there's 26 bullish companies on Wall Street for this stock. There are 0 bears on Wall Street for AMD. What I'll do in this video is I'll go through some of the fundamentals of this company just briefly. I'll go over the financials of this company, the valuation relative to all other major chip stocks. And at the end of the video, I will give you a price prediction for AMD. But with that being said, let's talk about it here. So Vanguard increased exposure by about 1% in their Vanguard 500 index fund. And then JP Morgan, obviously an active name here, increased exposure by about 12% over the past quarter, or excuse me, 10%. And then Northern Trust increased exposure by about 3%. And then we saw UBS increase exposure by 49% over the past quarter. Awesome to see that there. And then really, let's take a look at the Wall Street analyst ratings for AMD. So we can see here that Melius Research actually upgraded the stock to a buy from hold just today, and they have $188 price target for the stock, which is obviously much higher than the current price, or I shouldn't say much higher, but decently higher. And then we saw Mizuho actually last week maintain their buy rating, but upgrade the stock in terms of a price target to $162. Obviously, we're seeing AMD up over 5% today, really outperforming the broader market. I'll get into my price prediction based on technical analysis at the end of this. But KeyBank also maintained their overweight rating with a $170 price target, so up their price target last week as well. And then the most recent Goldman Sachs note actually upgraded the price target to $157. That was in December, and they have a buy rating. So once again, though, 26 bullish Wall Street firms and 0 bears. To me, that signals that there's a major consensus of bullishness on AMD, which really is good to see for this stock. And like I said, really this is great for the stock because it signals that many of these Wall Street institutions are likely to continue to buy the stock as price targets continue to rise, and we have extreme bullishness on Wall Street. For those that don't know, basically Wall Street analyst ratings and notes, they all really kind of throw around institutional money. So let's say, for Goldman Sachs's case, if Goldman has a very bullish note out on the stock, more than not, the portfolio managers at Goldman Sachs are going to continue to buy this stock. So it really tells you what institutional money is going to be doing over the next couple quarters, and that's definitely a bullish trend for AMD. And then one recent note I wanted to cover here was that AMD, this is from December, admittedly, but AMD did unveil its latest AI accelerator Instinct MI300X at its Advancing AI event in December, which drew mostly positive reactions from Wall Street. In fact, AMD raised its expected 2027 AI accelerator total addressable market to $400 billion, and it was originally $150 billion prior. So this is really because of their M1 300X, which is the most advanced accelerator according to CEO Lisa Su, and they're clearly referencing NVIDIA's H100 GPUs. So they think that they're going to be beating NVIDIA's GPUs, which is awesome to see. And then analysts at Deutsche Bank, which had a hold rating on AMD, said that they believe the event had highlighted how AMD remains extremely well positioned to take advantage of the rapidly expanding AI market. Due to the expected size of the market, now believed to be at $400 billion, analysts expect there will be multiple data center accelerator players with AMD and NVIDIA at the forefront. So this is really a huge note on AI. And, as AI continues to progress, stocks like AMD should continue to do well. So awesome to see that they're kind of trying to differentiate themselves from NVIDIA in terms of that GPU that NVIDIA has been very popular for, that H100 GPU. So that's awesome to see. And then with that being said, let's take a look at the valuation of this company and let's compare it to NVIDIA, Qualcomm, Intel, and Texas Instruments. So AMD. So this tells me what the PE will be for the next year. So their non-GAAP PE for fiscal year 1 is 52 times, which is above NVIDIA, above Qualcomm, above Texas Instruments, and above Intel. So if you're buying AMD here, you must know that you are paying a premium relative to the other US players. So just know what you're buying. You're buying this stock at a premium relative to the broader sector. But when we take a look at price to book ratio, this is when AMD starts to look a little cheaper. So AMD has a price to book ratio of 4 times, which for those that don't know, that basically tells you that the market cap is 4 times the book value of this company. Book value just being the assets that a company has on its balance sheet. And NVIDIA is at 36 times. So Qualcomm at 7, Texas Instruments at 9, and Intel at 1.9. So price to book, on a price to book basis, this company is actually pretty fairly valued relative to the peers. And when we take a look at the growth metrics, so let's take a step back. I obviously know over the past 12 months, growth hasn't been great for AMD, and we've seen NVIDIA really outpace AMD in terms of growth, with AMD having minus 3% revenue growth over the past 12 months compared to NVIDIA's plus 57%. But if we take a step back and take a look at the 5-year compounded annual growth rate for revenue, we have a 5-year compounded annual growth rate of 28% for this stock, which is right in line with NVIDIA, which sits at 29% and is above Qualcomm, Texas Instruments, and Intel. And then let's take a look at the profitability metrics for this company. So unfortunately, profitability doesn't rank out great when you compare it to NVIDIA and Texas Instruments and Qualcomm. So we have a gross profit margin of 50%. For those that don't know, gross profit just tells you what a company makes for what it sells. It's simply revenue minus cost of goods sold. So 50% isn't horrible, but unfortunately, it is not as high as NVIDIA, Qualcomm, or Texas Instruments, but it is above Intel. And then the net income margin, unfortunately, it gets worse. So we have just a positive net income margin of 1% roughly. NVIDIA has a 42% net income margin, Qualcomm a 20% net income margin, Texas Instruments 39%, and Intel is negative 3%. So profitability doesn't look great relative to the peers. And then let's take a look at the balance sheet of this company. So we have $5.7 billion in cash. That equals about $2.20 per share. And we have $2.8 billion in debt, which means that this company has $2.9 billion more cash than they do debt. And then let's take a look at their net operating cash flow. So they have positive net operating cash flow of $1.85 billion. So that's good to see. But they're spending about $500 million a year to expand their operations. But overall, pretty good balance sheet there. More cash than debt is always a good thing. And then NVIDIA also has more cash than debt. So NVIDIA has $18 billion in cash. They have $11 billion in debt. So that means that they have $7.2 billion more cash than debt. So AMD doesn't necessarily have the fortress balance sheet that NVIDIA has, but they do have a better balance sheet than Qualcomm, Texas Instruments, and Intel, which all have more debt than cash. So overall, I do think AMD is in a really good spot from a balance sheet standpoint. I think from a growth standpoint, they also look pretty good. Profitability metrics don't look the best compared to peers. They're kind of middle of the pack. And then valuation, unfortunately, AMD is the higher valued name when you compare it to other U.S. semiconductor peers. So just to reiterate, if you're paying up for AMD, just know what you're buying. You're buying a stock that is higher valued than the other domestic semiconductor peers. So just be aware of what you're buying is basically all I'm saying. And then with that being said, let's take a look at the chart and give a price prediction for some of the traders that may be watching this video. So first off, the stock is above all daily moving averages, which is awesome to see. We're also outperforming the broader market. We've outperformed the broader market since late October. Good to see that there. And we have came down to test support at about 132. which is where shares topped out in June. Past resistance acts as new support. We came down to test this level last week. We held. We're moving higher today, and we moved higher over the past couple sessions. I think we'll see a continuation of this move higher up to about $155 for AMD. That's kind of my high confidence move, is from here to about 155. Obviously, we have CPI, PPI coming up this week, which will definitely throw the markets around, and that's what will probably end up determining where the stock actually goes in the short term. But from a purely technical standpoint, just looking at the stock in a vacuum, it looks like we'll probably move up to about $155 over the coming weeks for AMD, which is where shares had topped out in late December of 2021, and it's where shares had topped out in November of 2021 as well. So we'll probably come up to test the prior highs at around 155 in the short term. That's my price prediction. Full disclosure, I do have some calls on AMD in the short term, just for full disclosure. And then with that being said, let's take a look at which months AMD typically does well in. Which months does the stock typically do poorly in based on its history? So this screen here shows me the 51-year history of this stock and which months does the stock perform best in. And we can see that January is the #1 month for this stock in its 51-year history. So on average, shares rise 3.8% in the month of January. So this is the best month for the stock's history. Love to see that. Bullish technical setup kind of coinciding with bullish seasonal trends for the stock. You add it all up, that's pretty good. I think from a technical perspective, this could help push shares higher. Obviously, it's not the end all be all, but it definitely should help this stock. So overall, I think shares likely come up to $155 in the short term. And for those long-term holders, I think AMD is a really good stock to hold long term. Just know what you're buying. You're buying a stock that is higher valued, in investors are paying a higher valuation for this stock compared to other other semiconductor companies. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I'll see you here next time.